Yes, irae, interview with Kaziklu Bey, that's what we're playing. Hello there and welcome, Lynx here. The big battle happened yesterday. Today maybe there will be some sort of continuation. Let's see, because first of all we are falling from the sky. So I guess we need to survive first of all. That's right. Let's go. And so the incompatible men somehow ended up cooperating, as they unintentionally took to the exact same action. Wilhelm and Ludwig used the last of the remaining powers to protect Claudia, giving their all to soften her landing. They'd let go of her even as they crashed in the frozen land from thousands of meters high, had their bodies shattered and gushed out large amounts of blood. They kept holding her even as they collapsed down a slippery slope like trash and were cut apart by the shattering ice. When they finally came to a halt, they found themselves in a world covered in snow as far as the eye could see. Ooh. The first to stand up was Ludwig. He'd lost all the proof of his identity as the god ancestor of the dark. His skin color, eye color, the darkness he was clad in, all of it had vanished without a trace. In fact, Reinhardt's strike had shattered the part of him that you could call his core. His vanishing was an inevitability, and he used the little remnants of his power to save Claudia. The fact that he could even keep a human form was a miracle. Not even he knew why he was capable of that, but it was most likely his tenacity. No other explanation worked, so he instantly stopped thinking about it and moved towards something far more important. He had to confirm the welfare of his light. His soulmate was far more important to him than his meager life. Dragging his feet through the snow, he approached the nun lying on the pallid ground. Hearing her light groans filled him with relief. Ludwig kneeled down and checked her condition. Her cheeks and hands were bloody, most likely due to cuts from the ice, but he couldn't see any other visible wounds, no broken bones or anything. This was probably thanks to her nature as a half-vampire, for the source, Methuselah's power, had vanished. The fact that Ludwig continued his existence was enough to keep her healthy. In that case, there was only one thing left for him to do. I have to take her somewhere safe, he thought. His disappearance was drawing closer with every passing second. After he vanished, Claudia would return to being weak and ill, and her death would be nigh instant. He couldn't allow that, no matter what, for it had become impossible for him to live with her until the day it all ended. This wasn't about that. With that oath, he reached to pick her up. But... the voice that erupted from behind was dense, with a heat so great it felt like it could throw the surrounding permafrost. Not saying a word, two men glared at each other. Both of them were in a horrid state. Wilhelm's wounds were exceptionally deep. During the battle in the sky, he'd been receiving the boon of Gladsheim, but he was left completely dry at the present. The only soul left in him was his own. Wilhelm had clearly burned up nearly all the souls he had when he delivered his last strike on Ludwig, and then went on to dedicate the little power he had left to saving Claudia. As he was, Wilhelm couldn't even regenerate properly. If he did that, he would whittle his own soul and lose parts of himself. It wasn't certain what exactly would happen if he attempted it, but it couldn't be anything good. To waste life to keep yourself alive was clearly absurd. It was an act akin to putting the cart before the horse. Wilhelm was currently on the same level as a common human. All the magic running through his veins was as good as sealed. Here in the Arctic, in this severe cold, his momentary return to normality meant his death. Therefore, he already decided what he had to do. Ludwig rang out a sentence that was tinged with grudge and wrath. Indeed, after all, murdering her was the only way Wilhelm could survive.
元からそのつもりだったんだ。早いか遅いかの話だろう。そいつは俺にとって戦闘糧食みたいなもんなんだよ。
The words he spat out were dense with displeasure, but there wasn't any laudable reason for that. I can help it. The situation called for it. Those were more or less his thoughts on the matter, but he omitted none of the tragedy characteristic of someone in an emergency.
不本意なのはお互いだろうが、せっかく手間かけたってのに、こんなクソくだらねえ事情で食わなきゃいけねえ。最悪だぜ。これじゃそいつの魂は光も何も発さねえ。一山いくらの雑根だ。まったくバカバカしい話だよ。とんだオチになったもんだが、それでも俺が死んじゃたまんねえだろ。この際、クズでも何でも腹の足しになればいい。クズだと。
Ludwig couldn't ignore that word. Despite being on the verge of fading, he roared with a fiery passion.
貴様は彼女をクズというのか。清く生き、理想に準じ、儚く行こうとしている彼女のことを。幸多き人生では決してなかったはずなのに、微笑みを絶やさず光を求め与えんとし、貴様のような外道すら救おうとしていたクラウディオ。クズに過ぎぬとそう断ずるのか。
やかましい。
Wilhelm's voice, however, was the epitome of serene. He spoke only to get it all over with.
そいつは結局、分不相応なもんを求めて身を滅ぼした間抜け野郎だ。ごく普通っていう枠の中じゃ満足できなかっただけなんだよ。足りねえ半分だなんだと言いながら、持ってる本質は過剰だった。つまり貪欲で強欲で浅ましい上に自分勝手な罪深いやつなんだよ。俺と似ている。飢えてんのさ。
That was the simple truth in Wilhelm's eyes.
似た者同士、弱いやつが強えもんの糧になるのは摂理だろう。そいつは自ら死に向かっちまったが、俺は生きる。生きなきゃならねえ。俺が求めているもんは、決して分不相応なんかじゃねえと。天下に声張り上げて歌うためにな。
ここで殺すと。
その通りだよ。
There was no room for argument. All that was left was to assert their beliefs by crushing the other party to death.
彼女が貴様より弱いなどと勝手に決めないでもらいたい。
そう思うなら、てめえは今すぐそのバカ叩き起こして光らせろ。てめえにできるもんならな。
やってみせるさ。私が守る。
One step forward, then another. The two approached each other, and the moment they were within range, they raised their fists along with their pride. We exchanged blows, making our edges fly upward and painting the Arctic blizzard red with our crimson blood. Our fists were the only weapons we could rely on. I was broken, he was on the verge of vanishing, yet our burning spirit for the fight was without limit. Both of us swore to defeat the other no matter what. We sought something we just couldn't give up on, so anyone standing in our way would merely be pulverized. I won't let you have, Claudia. Acting upon that very sentiment, we both punched each other again and again. The impacts broke our bones and our torn skin left spots of blood on our fists. It really didn't and couldn't stop, we just had no reason to. We'd continue swinging our explosive punches until the shit before me was crawling on the ground. I had no fucking intention of dying in this lifeless shithole.
笑わせやがるぜネクラ野郎。よりによってこれがてめえの理想郷だと？ここには何もありゃしねえ。何の流れも存在しねえ。ただ凍ってそれで終わりだ。これこそ虚無と言うんじゃねえのか。
This was a world that had nothing but a white darkness. As far as the eye could see, there was no day or night. So for all I knew, not even time moved. It was a dead end if I ever saw one. Suddenly I was hit with a certain epiphany. Malleus' mental image of this guy was grey, because he yearned for the place. He was chasing a land where light and darkness melted together, the white night.
終わりの日まで？バカかてめえは。終わってんのはここだろうが。てめえごときが目としら名乗んな。こんな場所に愛着持ってる時点で見え見えなんだよ。一度も生きたことはねえだけだろうが。
I launched a kick into his stomach, making him lean forward and followed it up with an uppercut. Then, when I tried to go for more, he countered by throwing his fist into my right eye. It was as though he tried to crush my blind, prejudiced eyes that couldn't see his perspective.
貴様にはそう見えるのだろう。殺すことしか知らん貴様にはな。確かにこの地は極限だ。木には茂らず、草すらまともに生えてこない。奪う獲物に不足するのは事実だろうが、それでも営みは存在するのだ。厳しい環境だからこそ、命は崇高に輝いている。属性に見られる無駄な消費も乱用もない。故に自然だ。木のままの姿だ。光と闇が同居して原初の姿を今でも唯一保っている。それを食い出のあるなしでしか判断しない狭く単純な価値観だな。だから浅いと言っている。作物が貴様のような輩が世界を荒廃させているのだ。
族の何が悪いんだバカ野郎。
I roared and punched his temple. We tottered every now and then, but ignored the pain screams of our legs and continued this mirror-like exchange of blows.
つまんねえもんはつまんねえし、まずいもんはまずいんだよ。わびださびだと抜かしてりゃ頭良くなったつもりか間抜け。誰も褒めねえもんを褒めてりゃなんか悟った気にでもなれんのか。そんなもんは引きこもりの地位なんだよ。 俗離れした仙人なんぞは骨と皮のカスだろうが。
This guy, the insults, so good.
薄っぺらいのは一体どっちだこのボケが。
Something rare isn't automatically precious, and it being hard to understand doesn't mean it's true. Finding value in something no one even looks at is fine and dandy, but there is nothing noble about it.
てめえに俺の持論を教えてやるよ。
Thought just come to me at every moment.
売れてるもんの出来がいいとは必ずしも限らねえが、売れねえもんの出来がいいなんてことはありえないんだよ。
There was a point at everything. Contests, economics, intelligence, strength, etc. which you could start to brag about upon reaching. Though it was vague and differed for each field, it was certainly there, and acting like you were better than the rest before you reached it was always looked down upon.
そこにさえ届かねえもんは、てめえみたいなやつがどれだけ持ち上げようがクソだ。負け犬が負け犬に自己投影してるだけだろうが。
It was basically an underdog effect. A useless guy was just advocating for something useless that couldn't even make the cut. Looking at it that way gave him salvation and made him feel enlightened. And interesting.
俺はそんなもの認めね
Of course, there is also the opposite of that, the bandwagon effect. Popular shit is popular and money attracts money, making stuff keep winning regardless of quality and ability. Yeah, sadly. Junk food sells the most, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that a Coke and burger is the best meal in the world. Of course they aren't. Even so, I don't hate that kind of lowliness, the worldliness. In fact, I find it much more relatable than the worship of dumb shit. I mean, junk food is where it is because it passed the mark and won. It was able to become popular and is still gaining more popularity because of it. Right now, I wouldn't say so. I feel like we are drifting into healthier food, actually. Well, maybe it's just me. It was something like the useless shit that failed from the get-go and continued to exist only on pity from other losers.
そんなもんは自称違いのわかるソムリエ気取りしか崇めねえペラッペラの聖域だろてめえにお似合いだぜクソバカがのし上がろって覇気が足りねえ
This place was perfectly suited for a guy who accepted that he would die along with the world.
いいよく聞けこの野郎愚かだろうが賊だろうが勝って勝ち続けるやつが強えんだよ全てを飲み込み食らって膨れ上がるのが波動ってもんだ
I shouted and threw a punch that carried the weight of my sentiment. My worldview and mind rejected the trashy paradise of his.
木は茂らず森にならず草すらまともに生えてこねえ
If nature had an aforementioned point, it would be the tree line. Just what kind of value was there to an environment where even fucking plants ran away?
流行らねえんだよこんな場所はクズを無理やり持ち上げていい空気吸ってんじゃねえぞ
High altitudes and latitudes. Areas where trees couldn't be born, were the underdogs in this case. Upon realizing that, I figured out why I was so pissed by those idiots who'd get all pleased with themselves when claiming they were small in comparison to the great majesty of the old Mother Nature. The nature they so revered included the places beyond the tree line. White nights, aurora, mountains, and even outer space were no exception. Those who tried to elevate all that shit disgusted me like die-hard fans of movies that didn't sell for shit. They were losers who acted all enlightened despite none of that shit-changing reality at all. Fucking hell did I want to punch and kill them all. That was all there was to it. Lowly as I was, that was how I processed the situation. Which started out hurt all over, and the punches we'd exchanged in spite of that had exceeded the triple digits already. And yet our fighting spirit showed no sign of fading. He roared as if to blow away the frozen wind.
地に干渉しないとでも言うつもりかいや違う知っているぞ自然を壊し星を食らっても生きるのが人間だと寝かしたからな
He directly headbutted my face, making me dizzy and fucking up my vision before following it up with a storm of kicks and punches. The blood I spurted into the wind froze in midair, and he kept on punching, catching some and making it shatter. Clad in red diamond-like dust, Ludwig burned his vanishing body for all it was worth.
食らうのだろう己が生きるためならば全てを飲み込むつもりだろう価値を認めていないものですら蹂躙するのが波動と嘘吹き恥もなく共存という選択を持たず無関心すら貫かない光と寄り添わず他者に感謝の心も捧げずかといって一人孤高に生きもしない果てに具現するのはただの荒野だ波動だと笑わせるなよ治水の虫けらに責任分際で業深き宿主すら殺す寄生虫が貴様らだ 挙句星と心中する首相さすら持っていない。どこまでも貪り続け、いつまでも飢え続ける。一つ制覇すればその次へ、それが終わればまた次へ。際限なく進む呪われた軍隊だ。おぞましすぎてヘドが出る。
Understandable.
太陽すら貪って訪れた暗黒を真の夜だと歌うのか。これこそ至高の求めた世界だと誇るのか。何度も言うぞ、貴様は浅い。
Still on the verge of death, Methuselah punched me with all his remaining might. It seemed like a show of pride from a representative of the old world.
それこそ証だと言っているのだ。貴様の求める不死は虚無と変わらん。
He claimed that it wasn't just a matter of whether it was beyond or too much for me. The glory I was seeking simply didn't even exist.
故に貴様はその手に何もつかめない。
Interesting.
元からないものを目指しているのだ。どれだけ飢えて乾こうと得られないのは道理だろう。
Huh. Weren't we supposed to think not logical for? I mean, you were not thinking logical previously, so... His words reminded me of the time Mercurius evaluated me as one who'd endlessly have things taken from him.
貴様が貴様で己のあり方を奪っている。鬼間よ治水虫、光を射んで闇に這い出るうつろな魂は最初から死んでいる。無に何をかけても無にしかならん。そしてこれはおそらく貴様の主にも言えることだ。
Those words made my consciousness go past the boiling point. We're in conflict and I fought because of it, so I was willing to take any and all verbal abuse regardless of how reasonable your words were. Talking was a part of battle as well, it didn't stray from the rules. Still, this was just between us, so why the fuck did he bring someone else into this?
勘だがな、あの男の波動は破綻している。成立しない。仮にハイドリヒが全てを制覇したとして、その時あいつは消えるだろう。あれはそういうものだと確信した。そして奴に付き従うお前たちも総じてうつろだ。俺の目には巨大な矛盾の塊と映る。あれはまるで
It's as though you were fated to charge into the emptiness while not recognizing it as such and then destroy yourselves. He'd gone and done it, my very soul wouldn't forgive that. We launched an attack at each other's jaws. I staggered for a few seconds before letting my erupting consciousness take over. Soon enough, the soundscape was once again drowned in the echoes of our screams and impacts. It felt like my overflowing blood was flowing back to my trachea, but not even that was enough for my body to stop functioning. The conflict grew even more violent. I accelerated it further despite bleeding profusely. I didn't have an ear for that level bullshit, but it was limited to just how much of a sore loser you could be. It was irrational, meaningless, nonsense that I denied with all I was. He forced his elbow into my face and hauled back at me. After all, Lord Hydrish would destroy all that exists.
つまり自分たちだけは特別だと言いたいのか。呆れ返って物も言えん。なぜそこまで思い上がれる。貴 地の世界を滅するのが貴様たちなら、それを滅する何かも到来するとは考えんのか。真に不滅なものなどないんだよ、小僧。
うるせえ。
He was talking way too much shit.
雑魚の理屈に当てはめんな。
We would be the last and the strongest, while he'd be some half-assed idiot who died on the way.
空飛ぶピラミッドなんざねえんだよ。てめえのお仲間が消えたのも、てめえがこれから消えるのも弱いからに決まってるだろうが。俺らは違う。残り続ける。
Because we're strong. We follow the clearest of all the hegemonies and continue to move forward.
進化し、希少し、最新式であり続ける。後ろなんか見やしねえ。今より上の過去なんかねえんだよ。波動の歴史は成長の歴史だ。てめえらみたいな古いもんが何を言おうが、負け犬の遠吠えに過ぎねえ。そっちが強えって言うんなら消えるわけがねえんだからな。
Thus, my style didn't change. The newest was the strongest. And thinking about how shit was ages ago was a waste of time.
神秘だ、魔術だ、奇跡だ、真理だ、ボケクソしな。もうなくなっちまった雑魚のくせにでけえ面さらすんじゃねえ。だからいい加減に消えやがれ。
I roared and hit him with my whole body. Ludwig took it head on before ringing out the response.
ではあくまで求めるものは不滅だと。
まあ、俺はそれを信じてる。
And hell in the wolf. What the billion or even smaller chance that he somehow perished.
ハイドリ秘境がいなくなっても、俺は生きる。宇宙がぶっ壊れようが、生きるんだよ。
That was the true Methuselah, the embodiment of the ideal I sought. And for its sake I couldn't let myself die in such a shitty place, so...
クラウディオをよこせ。あいつは俺のものなんだよ。
I wouldn't let him have her. I needed her.
食らうためにあくまで貴様が死にたくないがためだろう。
悪いかよ。
I'd have fucking loved it if he finally realized just how vain it was to try to talk me in terms of general morality. Still, there was one thing I could say that fit his style of his.
お前はよ、結局一方通行なんだよ。惚れてんのは勝手だ。好きに愛でも何でもほざいてろ。だがそれで、お前はあいつにどんなもんを産んでやれるんだ？
一体何？
What was I saying? It was really damn simple. So simple that I didn't even want to tell it to the guy, but...
お前、あいつに好かれるつもりがねえだろ。そんなことはどうでもいいだの言ったんじゃねえのか、色男。
Got him. He healed her illness, gave her life, embraced her with love, and had intended to spend the time until the end of the days together. Those were his acts and desires, and they were all one-sided. Selfish. It was all only about himself. Sure, some would see it as selfless dedication that asked for no reward or some shit, but it was clearly warped. It was measured based only on his own scale.
あいつが真に輝く時ってのがどんなもんか、ちゃんと考えたことがあんのかい？
I definitely had. He'd obviously called my outlook arrogant and selfish, but at the very least I was conscious of how it looked like from both mine and her perspectives.
なんで主導権を丸投げしなきゃいけねえんだ。言っただろう。俺はあいつに惚れたいから、まずは惚れさせたいんだよ。
That emotion would be the light and I'd grant her. She would never be fulfilled if someone did nothing but support her, like this guy right here. Claudia was greedy, after all, not to mention an idiot who tended to act innocent. Even if she wasn't conscious of it, anything but two-sided love would make her perplexed and puzzled.
私は罪深いと言わせたいんだ。
I want to make her shout a soulful cry for life.
その時あいつは半分じゃねえ自分をようやく知って認められる。光を手にできるんだよ。てめえにそれは与えられね
ならば貴様は
I was just about done with this bullshit. I took a step forward, ready to end it.
どのようにしてそうさせる。人の心は都合よく操れない。貴様の報ずる波動でもこれは専門外だろ
え。分かってんよ。そこがめんどくせえからこそ。
Claudia had to die for my sake. This was set in stone, unshakable. And if I wanted her to become my sustenance, it was best to make sure she was good enough for me.
面白えんだろうが。とにかくてめえは言っとけや
At the moment, I decided against using her as an emergency ration. Despite the situation being extreme, or perhaps because of it, I figured that I had to stick to my original plan. Stacked all of my next punch, I lost my coarseness to a white-hot darkness. Devouring the guy, huh? Maybe. The echoes faded and only one was left standing. He breathed ruggedly while looking down at the man at his feet. For an onlooker would assume he was the winner, his eyes were in those of someone who'd claimed victory. The words he was told before the finishing blow left him shaken. Despite being able to take out his foe, he couldn't bring himself to do it. In a way, Wilhelm had won. He defeated Ludwig by pointing out something he hadn't realized. He'd been told he was one-sided. He'd done nothing but give to his beloved, without even considering the idea of receiving anything. He wondered why he didn't make an effort to make love bloom in her heart. It was because he didn't think it necessary, because he thought he was incapable of that. Or perhaps it was not but a backlash against Wilhelm's selfish logic. No, none of those were correct. Since she was the light, he feared that his dark influence would change her. Though he'd already acted as a vampire and transformed her into one, it was entirely different. He was certain that her nature wouldn't change no matter what her other attributes were, and that turned out to be true. However, the same couldn't be said when the influence acted upon the heart. Claudia knew not of love, and he believed that bestowing it to her would be like contaminating her with a foreign substance. It would be the same as spilling ink on pure, fresh snow. He finally realized that thinking that to be heresy was heretical in itself. After all, he decided that being with him would make her akin to a fallen angel. He'd underestimated the vigor of his beloved, doubted the unchanging nature of light. Albeit belatedly, it made him realize that his defeat was nothing short of inevitable. Ludwig turned around and faced Claudia with her eyes on her face. Not only was she awake to see the battle, she'd probably been aware of his misguided advances as well. It made him feel so shameful that he could only let out a laugh. Mm-hmm.
こういう時は黙って見守るべきなのだろうと考えました。私、間違っているでしょうか？
Nope.
いや、おかげですっきりできたよ。ありがとう。
She'd never been mistaken about anything, and she never would be. He sincerely believed that, even if no one else did.
よかった。すごくハラハラしたんですよ。男の方というものは、やっぱり子供で、どうにも放っておけませんね。
She's right about that.
あまり賢くもないようですし。
She's right about that too.
すまない。まったく耳が痛い限りだよ。
She was reprimanding him, making it appear to be quite the ordinary scene. Considering their current situation and all that happened, it was exceedingly nonchalant of her. However, that was exactly why he found her more dear than anything else. The embarrassment it gave him was so pleasant that even the Arctic blizzard felt like not more than a spring breeze.
本当に困った人たち。だけど私はそんなあなた方を眩しいと感じました。綺麗だと美しいと感じました。そして何より。
Claudia paused, seemingly bashful about the situation. Ludwig continued her words in her stead.
妙理に尽きると。
はい。罪深いですか？
いや、可愛らしいよ。光栄な話だ。
Two men fought for the sake of a single woman. For, indeed foolish, it was a tale as old as time. Thus, as the actors, they had adhered to their roles. While the men burned their bodies and souls for the woman's sake, she would fight the heartache, while simultaneously feeling great pride. They go on all out for her sake, so she wanted to praise them for their effort. Some might call it an act of a weak woman, but there was no denying that if she'd considered their plight disagreeable, disgusting or foolish, the whole scene would be rendered for awfully vain.
そう考えれば、私も君に何かを芽生えさせることができたのかな。ああ。だったら、私の生涯にも。
This life cycle of mine wasn't vain, he whispered, for he couldn't live with her until the end of days. He still left a mark on the heart of the woman he saw as his soulmate. In that case, all was well. That alone was enough for Methuselah, this ancient knight eternal wanderer.
幸あれかし、愛しい君よ。私は光を信じている。その選択がどのような未来を描こうとも、たたえよう。君は君が望むまま、やりたいようにやって生き。
Then.
果てるのだよ、クラウディア。
はい。素直に生きたいと思います。あなたがそれを気づかせてくれたから。
And so he ceased to exist, huh? Thus he vanished, melting into the white night. He finally returned to nature at his paradise, the land where light and dark coexisted. The end of the old world was close. With the death of the most ancient being, the only one left would be the origin. No one on the scene actually knew what it was, and when the mist would come, but regardless, Claudia dedicated a prayer. She dearly held the rosary, the rosenkranz, on her chest, as though that was where the answer lay. Well, you know what? Let's end it here. We'll await for Wilhelm's awakening in the next episode. You know, the previous episode was super lengthy. This one will be shorter. Let's do it like that. Anyway, still, that was quite interesting. I guess it's true that he was sort of always thinking about only himself, I guess. Him giving and so on. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So in that aspect, I guess Wilhelm is sort of better, but, well, you know, the fact that he wants to actually take her soul and so on, that makes it worse, but I guess it's also sort of the way those characters are, right? The characters which were not technically like the protagonistic characters in first year's era. Also, sorry about that, had to sneeze. Alright, I'll see you all tomorrow. Wilhelm probably will wake up and we'll see where this is exactly going in what might be the last episode. I don't know, we'll see. For now, hope you enjoyed. Consider liking the video as per usual, I'll ask about that. Subscribe if you haven't already, that's always very helpful to the channel, obviously. And super appreciated by me. Comment what you thought of the fight between the two. And Twitch with their Instagram in description. If you're into that stuff, you can follow me there as well. That's it. Yeah. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.